Today, we're diving into this brand new, kind of fascinating job that's popping up in the AI era. It's a role that's completely changing how we build products, and it's called the professional vibe coder.
But let me just start with the crazy question. What if everything we've been told about needing to be a technical genius is just wrong? What if, right now, not knowing how to code is actually your secret weapon?
And maybe more importantly, what is the actual playbook the pros are using to take an idea from their head and turn it into a real shipping product using AI? Well, you're in the right place, because we're going to break down that entire strategy.
Okay, let's get right into it. What on earth is vibe coding?
So a professional vibe coder is basically someone who uses AI tools to build and launch stuff fast. A lot of the time, they don't have that traditional computer science degree. What they do have is a laser focus on the idea, on speed, and on taking total ownership of a project. And we're not just talking about little side projects here. This could be anything from building marketing templates for a Shopify app to creating really complex internal dashboards that track how customers are using new features.
And the mindset here is what's really interesting. Take Lazar Jovanovic, a professional vibe coder. He says it's the best job in the world because he gets paid to just build cool stuff he wanted to build anyway. That passion really comes from a totally different way of looking at the world.
Which brings us to this idea of the non-coder's advantage. See, it turns out that not having a formal coding background can be a huge, huge strength. You're not held back by all the old rules of what you think is possible. You just come in with this positive delusion that anything can be built, and that's where the real breakthroughs happen.
So here's the most important takeaway. The AI, it's pretty much solved the how. It can write the code. The human's job has fundamentally shifted. Our value isn't about how many lines of code we can pump out anymore. It's about our judgment. It's about achieving just perfect clarity on what we want to build in the first place.
But to get that clarity, you have to know the rules of the tool you're using. And honestly, the best way to think about a large language model is like the genie from Aladdin. And this genie has two very, very simple rules you have to follow.
Okay, rule number 1 is the context window. It's simple. You only get 3 wishes, right? You don't get 3,000 wishes. In the same way, an LLM has a limited memory. It's called a token window. It can only remember so much information at one time before it starts forgetting what you talked about at the beginning of the conversation.
And this is rule number 2, and it's a big one: specificity. If you just wish to be taller, the genie might make you 13 feet tall, and suddenly you can't even fit through your own front door. The AI is exactly the same. It's super obedient, but it cannot read your mind. It takes every single word you say literally. So if your request is vague, you're going to get a disastrous, completely unusable result.
Okay, so let's get into the practical, step-by-step playbook for working with these limitations. This is how you manage the genie to get exactly what you wish for every single time.
First up is something called the parallel prototyping method. Now, instead of trying to write one perfect prompt, you actually start 4 different projects all at the same time. The first one, just a messy voice memo brain dump of your idea. The second one is a more structured, written-out prompt. For the third, you feed it visuals, like screenshots from design sites you love. And for the fourth, you give it actual code snippets to get super precise pixel-perfect results. What this does is let you see 4 different paths almost instantly, helping you find clarity by doing not just thinking. Now, as soon as you've run those 4 tests and a clear winner starts to emerge, everything changes. You stop building and you start planning. And get this, the pros spend about 80% of their total project time just in this planning and documentation stage. Only 20% is actually spent on execution. Kind of wild, right?
And that planning all happens in a set of key documents. You'll create a master plan for the what and the why, an implementation plan for the sequence of steps, design guidelines for the look and feel, a user journey to map out every single click, and finally, a tasks file, which is just a super detailed, granular checklist for the AI to follow one by one. This whole package gives the AI what's called perpetual context, so it never gets lost or forgets what it's supposed to be doing.
But look, even with the world's greatest plan, things are going to break. It's inevitable. So when you get stuck, you don't just start guessing and changing things randomly. You use a system. It's called the 4x4 debugging framework. It's a simple step-by-step process. Step 1, just ask the tool itself, hey, can you try to fix this? Step 2, if that doesn't work, is to add awareness. You ask the AI to write some diagnostic code, console logs. Then you run the broken part and paste the error messages right back into the chat.
Now it can see what it's doing wrong. Step 3, get a second opinion. You can export your code and run it through a different powerful AI tool. And step 4, the last resort, if nothing else works, you just go back to the last version that was working, take a deep breath, and rethink your prompt.
But here is the secret sauce, the absolute game changer. After you fix the bug, you create a learning loop. You ask the AI, how could I have prompted you better so we could have solved this in one shot? This turns every single mistake into a lesson that makes both you and the AI smarter for the next time. You can even save these lessons as permanent rules for the AI to follow in the future.
So, when you put all these new skills and workflows together, what does it really mean for the future of tech jobs? Where is all of this heading?
Well, there's a pretty powerful idea that hand coding, it's going to become like calligraphy. A beautiful, respected, artistic skill, but not something that everyone needs to know to get things done. The raw output is basically becoming a commodity.
And this leads us to the great convergence. Think of AI as this massive force multiplier. The old separate roles, the product manager deciding what to build, the engineer deciding how to build it, and the designer deciding how it feels, they're all starting to merge into one single super empowered role.
Okay, that was a lot, I know. So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways from today's playbook. First, it all starts with mindset. Use that non-coder's advantage and focus everything on achieving clarity. Second, you've got to respect the genie. Remember its limited memory and its absolute need for specificity. Third, plan, then execute. Use parallel prototyping to explore, then build out those detailed documents before you build for real. Fourth, debug like a pro with the 4x4 framework and always close that learning loop. And finally, optimize for what makes you human. The most valuable skills now are your taste, your judgment, and your emotional intelligence.
Which really just leaves us with one last question for you to think about. We're living in a world where AI is getting better and better at solving for how. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, are you spending your time getting better at the things it can't do? Are you optimizing for your judgment, your taste, and your ability to be crystal clear?